And you're live.
Good afternoon, everyone, and it is my privilege to welcome you to our virtual information session. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to join us this afternoon. My name, Kobus Oosthuizen, the Dean of the Business School, and joining me as the main attractions for today are my esteemed colleagues, Dr. Jane Usher, our Academic Director, and our Program Managers, Lawatu Twaele and Evelyn Kennigan, as well as Student Services Manager, Yasmin Sadat. But friends, let me get the conversation going by giving you a quick snapshot of who we are and what we stand for. Now, MBS, the short version for Mill Park Business School, as we refer to it, has been around for more than 20 years with a national footprint in South Africa. And our offerings being the Doctor of Business Administration, the Master of Business Administration, or the MBA as we all know it, then 2 postgraduate diplomas, one in Business Administration, one in Public Administration, and Executive Education, short courses, and finally consulting. Now, our distinctiveness is expressed as a wholly virtual business school that empower people to become more than they dared imagine in their business careers, professions, and life, unlocking their potential through trusted leading online learning journeys. Thereby, we help shape South Africa's economy to grow and prosper and strengthen its social fabric. Now, we believe we provide quality scholarship in response to Management Education 4.0 and the world of work, of course, and that we are a key contributor to ethical and sustainable business practices informed by the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs as we all know them. We literally give wings to your career progression and career ambitions. So colleagues, our reason for being simply is to develop ethical leaders for the common good. And this mission is firmly rooted in our values of strive, learn, care, and real. So in sum, ethical and sustainable business practices are at the heart of our teaching and research philosophy. Hence, we empower future leaders to pursue ethical and sustainable business practices informed by the SDGs. We are very proud of our students' achievements in a wide variety of sectors and believe it reflects the impact we make as a business school. The most recent PMR Africa National Employer Survey on business schools offering MBA degrees in South Africa rated us second in the overall rankings of 2022. And we are also very proud of being the only business school in Africa with Amba Accreditation for our online MBA. So friends, I trust you will find this session informative and inspirational. And with that, I'm handing over to my colleague, Dr. Jane Usher. Jane, over to you.
Thank you, Kobus. And welcome, everybody. Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us this afternoon, especially after a long weekend. So I'm hoping that we can give you a bit of information to think about, to inspire you a bit. And I just want to share we have a short presentation. It won't be too onerous, don't worry, with all these millions of PowerPoint slides. But basically, as Kobus said, we do stand for ethical leadership within our curriculum, the way we do things, the way our students do things. And that's really one of the areas that drives the graduates that come from Mill Park Business School, from the postgrad, the MBA, as well as our postgrad in public administration, which is a fairly new qualification. And please, again, feel free to ask questions, ask as many questions as you can, as you'd like to, so that we can get a conversation going. So before we move on to the technicalities, we have a fairly small full-time faculty, which is we've headed up by Dr. Kobus Oosthuizen, who you've seen. And then we have our program managers, Lawatu and Evelyn, and we have Yasmin, who's our student services support manager. And the reason that they are on today with us is to give you a sense of what they do, how important and a pivotal role that they play in students' lives, because they are really your point of contact, especially through Yasmin and her team, and then with Evelyn and Mabatu. But we do have our senior lecturers who are academic owners of the modules that we have. We have assistants who are also there to help with student support as well as lecturer support. And so we have a really good team in place, full-time team that will assist you. And then we have a large adjunct faculty who are all, they have the relevant qualifications, but they've got experience in the fields that that you're going to be studying. And that's what we really need when we look at, especially business, in terms of business. You need to be able to speak to people who've been there, have done that, they've got T-shirts, you name it. So that's why we use a fair amount of adjunct faculty, because of the experience. And so Yasmin's team is Yasmin, we've got Masifaka, who you'll also get to know. She does a lot of support. And then Noni, Wanga, and Pumi, they're also a very close-knit team for our students. They give you advice on what you can do, what you should do. And we're going to find out from Yasmin a little bit more about who, what, and why they are also important. Quickly from our side, in terms of why Mill Park and what is unique about the programs that we have, and in particular with the postgraduate diploma in business administration and then the MBA. What happens here is, if you start with the postgrad, and then carry on to your MBA, we'll tell you about the admission requirements, but really you get 2 postgraduate qualifications within 3 years, because we have modules in the postgrad that overlap onto the MBA. So you both are in the same classes, you write the same assessments at the same level, and then when you move on from your postgrad, you've already got internal exemptions onto your MBA. So you have that already in the bag, basically saving you a bit of time there. There's immediate application into your work environment, as we've said before, and that's why we have practitioners as well, that all your assessments that you do are practically orientated. How would you implement it into your work, in your workplace? We also look at society. How would you contribute to society? How do you help in terms of giving back to your communities? We also have modules on that, and in terms of the environment. So we're looking at technical skills that you're going to be learning, as well as more what we like to call the soft skills. And that's where our integrated curriculum comes in. You're going to do some very core accounting, management accounting, operations, and then you're also going to be doing leadership, people management, and we need a blend of all of those. We also ensure that our students have their own voice. We encourage you to use your voice, obviously based on theories, and we want to hear your voice coming through. So we have high standards, and it's not just what the textbook says or what one textbook says. We want to hear your voice in what you feel about the current theories, and are they still relevant? Aren't they relevant? And how would you make sure that they work in your organization? You'll also be analyzing complex issues and looking at different alternative perspectives. And I think that's something that we sometimes forget, that someone else might have a different view on something, because we've got a steadfast view. And what happens in your discussion forums and your live sessions is you start learning about different points of views from people who come from different industries, from different backgrounds, different cultures, different geographic areas, and that makes a big difference. So you will be doing lots of discussion, debate, and you're not going to be taught. You are more likely you're going to be immersed, you're going to be learning, you're going to be asking questions, and then constructing your own knowledge, obviously based on what is going around you. You're not just going to be expected to construct knowledge without guidance. So that's what your facilitators are there for. We evaluate local, global, national issues in terms of 4IR and the Sustainable Development Goals, because there are tensions there. And we want you to be able to develop creative, imaginative solutions, but they need to be credible. And you need to know how to be doing that. One of the main things in these qualifications is the promotion of developing your personal, interpersonal, and your professional skills. So throughout the programs, you have a combination of individual tasks, things that you need to reflect on. Then you've got syndicate work, which really starts testing your interpersonal skills. How do you work with each other? How do you manage your relationships with each other on that level? And that also leads to how you do it in a professional manner, because you've got chunks where and specific modules where you need to work in groups. So there is a balance between group work and individual work. And the reason that we expect you to do the group work or the syndicate work is because at work, you're working in teams. I don't think there might be some specialists who just do their own specific thing, perhaps like actuaries, but as a general manager, managing director, you need to be able to work and allocate work to different people, different teams, and see their strengths. And so through these programs, you get the technical expertise as well as, let me say, the emotional intelligence and the social intelligence as well, as you journey through this, because it's a process. We also ensure that we give you close support from your program managers, and we're going to speak to Evelyn and Mba in a second about that. Your lecturers are also there for you. They're platforms and channels that you can contact them through, and they're always there to help you and guide you, whether it's from a kind of a subject matter expertise, or if you just need a bit of advice. But we also have our program managers who can support you, myself, Kobus, and then we've got our counselor who is there for further development and issues that you may need assistance with. And it is a fairly arduous journey. I'm not saying, because if you're going to do something, you don't want it to be too easy, then it's not really worthwhile. But we don't want it to be too hard that nobody finishes. So you will be closely supported by your lecturers, by the faculty, and the rest of the MBS team, as I've chatted to you or told you before. I'm going to stop sharing for a bit. I'm just going to ask Yasmin, we'll talk a little bit about funding and how Capitec is there to assist our students. And then what we'll also do is I'll put the slide back up again if anybody wants to just get this information again. But it is on our website, and we're going to discuss that in advance, or just now, as I can stop sharing, and we can start having a nice discussion. See if I can get that right. Okay, got that right. Okay, so I'm finished with my lot of talking, and so I'm going to be basically asking Yasmin, Evelyn, Mba to take over. So all of you have got a lot of experience in dealing with postgraduate students, in being postgraduate students, and Milpark specifically. I'm not going to mention how long people have been at Milpark for, but you've got experience in business as well as in academia. So I think context is always important, and I think I'm finding that more and more important. So if we look at when you first come into Milpark and you want to find out about the qualifications and get a feel for the place, Yasmin and her team are your initial, what can we call the first people that you're going to encounter. maybe not physically, but these days online and everything. So I'd like to know from Yasmin, tell us a bit about what is your role as student service manager? What does it entail? And why is it that it's so important to us?
Yes, thanks, Jane. Thanks for the question. Hello, everybody. In my role as the student services manager for the business school, one of my core responsibilities is to oversee and manage the overall provision of administrative services and making sure that the sales and the student support team follow best practices and maintain our service level agreement. In addition, I also oversee the strategic and operational management for all activities relating to student recruitment. So we are the first point of contact for all incoming inquiries, and we look forward to receiving the application from the students, and it will be our pleasure to partner with them on this important journey. Yeah.
Tell us, I just wanted you to give us some kind of context. In terms of student recruitment, what do you mean by that? Because it's not sales. What is the difference? How do you go about engaging with prospective students?
Okay, so we have the leads come in through different channels. We have students calling in, making phone calls, or students may send an inquiry on our website, and those inquiries are channeled to my team. And we then engage with the students and take them through the information pack, explaining the admission criteria, and assist the student to apply and get admitted to the program.
Great.
So there is two processes. There's two processes, Jane. The admission process is applying to get approved onto the qualification, provided that the students meet all the criteria. And then once admitted, then the student would then register for the modules.
Right.
To start the program.
So, yeah. And so really you assist them to make sure everything is there. We'll chat about that also a little bit later in terms of exactly what the process is and what they need, and because we do want it to be as smooth as possible, and to actually apply for a postgraduate degree is quite rigorous and onerous. So let me move on to Mba. To tell me about your role as a program manager for the postgraduate diploma in business administration and then executive education.
Good day, Dr. J. Good day, everyone. Thank you for the question. So basically our roles as the program manager varies. We're responsible for the students' admission and registration process. We're also responsible for the overall program management of the program once the student has enrolled. We also are responsible for arranging the online we have that we are currently running under MBA Sims, and the general queries that we receive from the students generally on a daily basis regarding the qualifications.
And tell me, what is it like having, so you are responsible for the postgrad in business admin and then executive education. So those are fairly different. Is there a difference in the way you support your corporate clients and your individual students, or what is your philosophy to supporting them?
It differs a lot, because on the public side, the student in most instances, they have made the decision to enroll themselves. Whereas on the corporate side, it's students who are being brought in by a different client to serve a different purpose. So for them, it's like they kind of don't have a choice on the qualification that they're currently enrolling them. It's kind of the company pushing them and seeing that gap within the market to say, you need to be enrolled for a particular program. So there it is quite a challenge, because you firstly need to make the student understand the reason and the purpose of the enrollment and the purpose of the qualifications that they're actually enrolled for. So on the public side, it's quite easy because the student has made that decision for themselves. So they already know what they are kind of embarking on, the journey that they're about to take, and what are their reasons and the purposes of taking that qualification. So it's kind of different. On the corporate side, it needs more attention. Whereas on the public side, yes, there is a bit of attention that you give in, but it's not as much as the corporate side.
Okay, and then also you need to journey with them, be it, you know, from corporate side or an individual, you know, as they start off and finish with their DBA in 10 years' time. So I'm going to move on to Eve. So Evelyn is responsible for the MBA and then the postgraduate diploma in public administration. Now that is for us still a fairly new qualification, but it is gaining a lot of popularity. What areas do you focus on in your role, Eve, for the MBA and then on your postgrad?
Thank you, Jane. Hi, everyone. Jane, I would say the area I focus on is to provide students with support during the program for the MBA and the PhD PA to ensure they have a successful educational journey, not just successful, but that they excel at the program. And we assist students with queries, if they need any extra help, assist them with which modules to select, how many modules, because every student could have a different plan. So if a student, you know, with the number of modules and which modules to choose, and with the structure of the modules, I also assist students with the portal, how to access the portal, how to navigate, how to go online and to do the discussion forums. We assist students with logging into the classes, putting the students in touch with the lecturers or the HOD yourself, or the dean if required. And then if the student wants to schedule a meeting, for example, with a lecturer, if they need extra assistance, if the syndicate group wants to schedule a meeting with the lecturer, then the program manager would assist us in arranging that. So there's a lot of support that the program manager, myself, and Mba provides to students. I would say a first point of contact as well once a student is admitted and registered. And we also process the admissions. We do the MBA interviews, we do the registrations. I would look at a student's plan to see if it's according to the structure. If a student should take an extra module, perhaps I would guide students and counsel them on which modules to take. Yeah, so my main role and focus is to ensure that the student has an excellent experience with us and to support them and assist them.
That's great, Eva, that's true. And to also make sure that they have done all the modules that they need to do. Hopefully, you know, we'd hate it if somebody gets to the end and suddenly, oh goodness, you still need something that you should have done in first year. So that we've never had that, thank goodness. So, and I think, tell me a little bit about the relationships how do you build the relationships with your students? What do you do?
So initially with the MBA students, it's during the interview. We talk, we chat. The interview is really about getting to know the students, what their expectations are, what our expectations are, what the motivation is for studying the MBA. So I would say a very strong relationship with students. I had an alumni contact me recently to ask for information. He wants to start lecturing as well. So we maintain that relationship during the program when the student starts, and then through their journey and often afterwards. So yeah, we do build very good relationships, and they have easy access to us. We are generally available during the day and even in the evenings when there's classes. If a student needs extra help, then we're available then as well.
So it's a lot of support. That's good. Yasmin, let us know about the admission requirements for the postgrad in public admin, and then business admin, and then the MBA, because they're all a bit slightly different. Yeah, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Students applying for the postgrad in public administration has to be in possession of a 3-year degree from any field of study and will not be required to write an assessment test prior admission. And that's the difference between the postgrad in public admin and the postgrad in business administration. Students applying for postgrad in business administration must have a 3-year degree and achieve an acceptable rating in the admission assessment tests administered by Top Talent Solutions. Once the student has applied, the program manager will book the test for the student. And then obviously the program manager will check with the student first for a suitable date and time, and the student will then write the test online. For MBA applicants, applicant needs to have a 4-year degree or an honors degree or a postgrad diploma in any field of study, as well as achieving acceptable rating in the admission assessment tests.
And somebody failed the assessment test, by the way.
Repeat, Jane?
So can anybody fail the assessment test?
I think that question will be for the program managers.
Yeah. What do you think?
No, there's no failing.
That's why I always like to ask that. Sorry, and I know because people get very worried because they've got to write a test, pass or fail test. So just to put your mind at ease, we'll chat a bit again about that a little bit later. Sorry, Yasmin, you carry on with your comments.
No problem. In addition, Jane, we also consider students who do not meet the minimum criteria to apply, and they may apply via the recognition of prior learning. However, we are continuously oversubscribed for the PGD in business administration and the MBA, and hence, if the applicant does not meet the minimum criteria, to kindly contact the program manager before applying online for admission for the recognition of prior learning. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's very important. We do have that. Yasmin, can you tell us about how our payment plans work? We do have Capitec, who is there to assist our students. If you can just explain what students need to do for their applications if they need a payment plan from Mill Park as well.
Mm-hmm. So once students have been successfully admitted onto a program, be it the postgrad in public administration or the postgrad in business administration or the MBA, there are 2 ways to get assistance with funding. Firstly, a student may apply for payment terms with us, and the process is managed by the accounts department. So how the installments are calculated is that we look at the total cost of the module for block 4, or for 2023 if the student wants to register for block 1 and block 2 for next year. So we look at the total, and the total amount is split over 4 months, and then the student pay the installment over 4 months. The good thing is that we don't charge interest if the student sign up for payment terms with us. Or alternatively, student may apply with Capitec, and Capitec offers discounted interest rate and an extended term as well, depending on the duration of the program. The link to apply with Capitec is on our website, and once the credit is approved, the fund is paid directly to us for the student to register. So
it's fairly easy. How long does the process take if all the documents are in place, ideally?
Yes. For us, I think it will take about a week or 10 days to get the payment terms in place and approved. There is a process that the account department needs to follow, and the vetting and all that. So I would say 10 days.
Okay. But it's
For
but it
Capitec,
is-
I'm not for
Yeah.
Capitec. I'm unable to give you at the timeline that it would take, but it's best for the student to contact Capitec directly.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and have everything in place. Let me ask Mabatu. What is the difference? We've got two processes. We've got an admission process and registration process. Won't you take us through what the difference is? Yasmin has alluded to it, but just concretize it for everybody.
Okay. So basically the admission process, it's a process where we validate whether the student qualifies to be admitted on the program. So as Yasmin has said, there's different documents that will be required in that process. They are very good at that because it's not most of the time where you would rework an application based on outstanding documents. So they've got a very vast knowledge on that, and they make our job very easily. So basically in that process, we look at the students' qualification, which is the undergrad. Yasmin has said it's a minimum of 3 years with 360 credits. We also look at the students' work experience. We also look at the students' TTS assessment feedback. So based on that, that is the process that you take to admit the student onto a program for the PGDEP. Once a student has been admitted, then we now call the next process the registration process, where we now sit with the student to have a one-on-one lesson plan based on the academic curriculum. This is where now we plan the student's journey onto the qualification to say the qualification has 7 modules. You have an option to complete it between 1 year and 3 years. Then based on the student's availability and the work structure around them, that is when we then have a lesson plan to say, okay, you are in a position to finish in a year, or you are in a position to finish in 2 years. Then that's where we basically enroll the student with the actual academic modules of that particular qualification.
Super. Thanks, Mabatu. Eve, will you tell us about how important it is for students to have a support system outside of Milpark?
Okay, yeah, with the MBA, it does require a lot of commitment. And I think from past experience with students and from learnings, it's important to communicate with your friends and family, what you are doing so they understand. So the students' friends, for example, if they're invited to a party or a braai or a get-together, understand that the student is not being unsociable, but actually has a commitment, that they've committed to completing the MBA, and they either have classes or assessments or they need to prepare, especially with their spouses and their children. Being on your laptop or reading may take a lot of time in preparation for classes. So I think it's important to let your family and friends know that you are committed for the next 2 years to complete your MBA. And that you will be fairly busy.
Yeah, fairly busy. I like that. And have you had any instances where people just need help in, say, study skills? How do we go? What would you do to assist people in their study skills? Because often people who are doing an MBA, they haven't studied for quite a few years.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes people who are doing the MBA have a science degree or a medical degree. So we do have resources and tools to assist students with this. For example, if a student needs assistance with academic writing or is struggling with that subject, then we would set up a meeting with a subject matter expert. One of our lecturers, Debbie, normally helps students with this. So we'd set up one-on-one meetings, maybe 1 or 2 meetings where Debbie would go through what academic writing is, what is expected of the students, and how to go about completing their assignments and assessments. We also have the Milpark counselor and also a coach for the MBA who assists students with a study plan, if they need guidance with a study plan and how to set up a schedule, who assist students with group dynamics, for example. And then also if there's any personal challenges that the student needs assistance with, the counselor is there as well. So
life happens when you making plans. That's what that's what we're told. Okay, Eva, sorry, I seem to be focusing on you at the moment. Can you just give us why do we expect to have a CV for the MBA, and what role does that play in the whole application process?
Okay, so like Yasmin discussed the admission requirements for the MBA, one of the requirements is that a student be 25 years and older to apply for the MBA, as well as have 3 to 4 years of management or work experience. So the CV is important for us as part of the application process, as part of the admission process, and it's a template. It's an editable PDF that we provide to the student, that the student completes and uploads onto their application. And part of the questions on the CV is how many years of experience do you have, where did you work, what's your current position. So basic information. It's a one-pager. It's easy to complete, and it's just to understand that you meet the criteria for admission onto the MBA.
And really, I think work experience for both the MBA and postgrad, especially the MBA, is important. But why do we emphasize that?
When a student comes to class, the facilitator will go through the content and the material and theories, but the student is required to apply that in their work environment. So if a student comes to class with a little bit of experience and is able to interact and to understand and then to take what they've learned and apply it in their workplace, for example, people management, how they manage their people and so forth, or finance, how to read financial statements, but to use actual work examples in their assessments and so forth.
No, definitely. And I think also for us, the peer learning is very important, because we've got very different industries, from banking to mining. And so getting the insights from different experience in terms of different industries is also extremely important. So yes, that's why the more experience, I don't want to say the easier, but it does help a tremendous amount to keep that kind of level up. Yasmin, tell us quickly a bit about when can people register? Are we open? Are we open for 2023?
Okay. We have an intake in September, so those who wants to join the PGD in Business Administration or the MBA or the Postgrad in Public Admin may apply now, and commence in Block 4. Classes will begin on the 27th of September for all 3 qualifications. And those students who would like to join for 2023 may apply now and get admitted this year, and then register only in November. We'll only open registration for 2023 in November.
Okay, that's brilliant. So I'm going to give you everybody is a taste about what we are planning for one of our modules, because we hope we finished with the whole pandemic. We are in talks with Watson University, who's one of our partners, and they are in India, in Hyderabad. And so one of our modules, which is an elective, is Business in Emerging Markets. That would be one of the MBA modules. However, it is open to anyone for non-degree purposes. And we're looking at having the physical tour to Hyderabad at the end of November, but we'll come up with firm dates. We're just still negotiating money and dates, and we're really hoping within the next week or so it will be finalized. So really, this is open to everyone, to postgraduate students. If you then are on postgraduate and you come onto the MBA, you would have an exemption when you do all the assessments. Then we also have for corporates, people who want to experience going to an emerging market such as India. How do they do business there? What is the culture like? What is the technology like? We do a lot of business visits. So you visit companies, you see how the entrepreneurs work. They've got a lot of innovation hubs in Hyderabad. It's the tech, basically the Silicon Valley of India. Microsoft is there, Google's there, Apple's there, and our students, delegates get to go to these fantastic organizations to meet people, to start networks. And then there are also cultural activities as well, because you don't want to just go there and work 24 hours a day. You need to know how the culture works, what they do. So I would, it's the most fantastic experience that people can have. I think it's worth the investment in oneself. So as soon as we have more info, hopefully next week or so, we'll be putting it on the website. So I would encourage all of you to keep an eye out, and even keep asking us to say, come, Jane, when are you going to give us the flyer? So that hopefully will be within the next few weeks when we can work out. And we're obviously trying to work out payments so that it is not prohibitive, obviously. So I just thought I'd put that out as a taster for everybody. And I see that we have got quite a few people on. We've got lots of people on here. So, tell your friends, family, it's a fantastic learning experience. It's properly immersive and really worth your personal investment. And that's where the personal growth also happens. So I'm going to keep quiet now again and ask Yasmin, Eve, and Batu. You can go in any order. Tell us, from your experiences, your conversations with students and alumni, what has come through from them as to what is unique about our programs? Why would they come to us?
Jane, I think from my side, the students, when I do the MBA interviews, especially those students coming from our postgrad into the MBA, say that the journey is great in terms of the amount of support that they receive. The response time is very quick. So students value a support system within Milpark that they have. They have actually access to the lecturers, to yourself, Jane, the head of department, to the program managers, to the admin staff, and when necessary, the dean as well. And I think the program is quite flexible. So students can, if something is happening, I had a student who had to go to travel internationally for religious reasons. And this happened suddenly. So he had to put his modules on hold for at least 2 months and then come back in the next block. So we're quite flexible. We assist the students with, what's going on. And then they can take as many modules, take the maximum amount of modules or the number of modules that suits them. So the other thing is that the business skills that the students have picked up. I interviewed a student for the MBA recently who said that she's quite young. She's 30 years old, and she said that it's amazing what she's learned in this journey, and she's been promoted, and she's now wants to do an MBA, and she's looking forward to the journey. So it's the relationships, it's the skills, it's the learnings, and it's the flexibility and the support from my side. Yeah.
Good to hear. Batu, Yasmin?
Doc, I think Eve has covered it all. Most students comment on the flexibility that we have, and with when life happens, with those options that we have, that students can take a 1-year gap within the qualification just to regroup and come back to start again when they're good and ready. That's another flexibility that students don't get it anywhere within the industry. So yeah, the flexibility is something that students comment a lot on about.
And I think we have, in the last 2.5 years, experienced, a lot of unforeseen circumstances our students have. So we do try and accommodate them. Yasmin, what is some of your conversations, led you to think of, why would you come to Milpark?
Jane, I think based on my experience, a student's investment in any qualification time as well as their money. Students, especially on the postgrad level, want to make sure that they are choosing an institution where the rigor of the online classes will challenge them. So we can assure all prospective applicants who are here today that choosing Milpark Business School as their provider for their postgrad or their MBA, okay, is one of the best decisions they can make today. As a business school, we are producing the next generation of leaders, and we are committed to practicing business for the common good in line with the fourth industrial revolution to create a beautiful tomorrow. So we are waiting for the application to come through, and we can then be part of that special journey with students.
And it is a special journey, I must say,
Yes.
to see students. I think for all of us, when we see our students from the beginning, when they inquire and enroll, to when they graduate.
Yes, and another very important consideration is our MBA Amba Accreditation, which is one of the main global accreditation bodies in education. The Amba sets an international benchmark of excellence in business and management education. And by studying an MBA with us, the student will graduate with a qualification from a business school recognized internationally for its excellence in teaching, giving the student the opportunity to stand out. So that's my second consideration, why one should choose Milpark education.
Yes. And the Amba, being part of Amba, the Amba family, for us is very important. They are going to be stopping the number of schools worldwide who can be part of the Amba family for MBAs, and that's at 300. So there will only be 300 schools worldwide. And if you think of the number of business schools that are around in America, China, India, up Africa, it's a lot. So we're very pleased about that. And what we also are doing more and more is entering our students in the excellence awards for Amba, and that just increases the global reach for our students. And we're seeing our alumni doing fantastic and amazing things, as well as our faculty as well, who keep you updated. Please look at our website to see what's happening there as well. But really, our alumni are doing fantastic things. So I'm going to say thank you to Yasmin Even Rabatu for being here today. I'd like to ask our esteemed Dr. Oosthuizen to please come back and say a few final words so that he can end off our lovely webinar info session on a positive note. Thank you, Kobus.
Sure, Jane, thank you. I'm humbled by your beautiful, I'm the one that's the most blessed of everyone, because I'm standing on the shoulders of these wonderful giants. What I mean by that is really blessed by an awesome team like yourselves. Colleagues, right, there's been a few questions, and I particularly saw Vuzi's question. Now, Jane has already addressed that. Vuzi, if you'll allow me to just maybe add on a little bit there, based on your question of what sets us apart from our competitors offering the MBA online. Now, without getting too philosophical, there's this term that's called normative isomorphism, which means that it is things that look very similar. So if you think of all the business schools across the world, they are very similar in format, in structure, in terms of the theoretical base that they all draw on for curriculum, etc. Now, predominantly the face-to-face engagement is the dominant way, has been, but there's been a dramatic shift, as you would know, since the pandemic has even put more emphasis on the online learning as well as the hybrid and the combination thereof. So in our own journey, we reminded ourselves that we are actually very good. We believe, and now that sounds arrogant, we are very good. And Jane referred to our online capabilities. So, and that doesn't come from yesterday. So we didn't, when the pandemic came in, frantically fell over our feet and trying to get things sorted. Remember, we've had an MBA, an online MBA. The institution's history is very much in the distance learning space, but over time with the MBA and the faculty members that have exposed themselves, me included, to global best practice in the space of online lecturing. So we've made a conscious decision with, within a relative competitive environment. So if you consider South Africa has got about 21 business schools, and we've made the conscious decision that we're picking that lane, and we're going to run that in that lane, and that is what we do very well. So that does not imply that face-to-face engagements are not important. But now you must remember, you are also considering the diverse population with people that are going to opt for the face-to-face thing, and that's nothing wrong with that. They've got maybe the time, etc. But there are also the people that would now prefer, because of their work schedules, their social responsibilities that they've had, family, etc., etc. They don't have to travel to a campus. You can, from your own comfort of your own home or your own office, wherever, whenever, at your own pace and so forth. So the other thing that's also important, that if I can kind of depict a characteristic of, let's call it the ideal online MBA candidate, you've heard the terms, and I don't want to impress you with big words, but in teaching and learning, we often talk about pedagogy. Now, it simply means a way of teaching. And my suggestion would be that if there is an expectation from a person to just be reactive and receptive, like having a lecturer standing on the stage and just supposedly filling you with knowledge. At the postgraduate level, I mean, our students arrive with their own experiences that they've acquired over their lifetimes. That rich experiences that we want to draw on, as well as and Jay referred to the peer learning, which is also very important. So we then use the term andragogy, which is adult learning, but there's an important component in there, and that being self-directed learning. Now, in our quest for lifelong learning, this is a very important quality of a modern leader, that of the ability to direct one's own learning, not, in other words, taking own responsibility for it. So when there's online classes, the expectation is that students will come to that engagement prepared. They would have engaged with the content. That is not the time to just sit passively and now wait for a lecturer to lecture, and one writes down the notes. Okay, so it's a wonderful experience. The adult learning environment, postgraduate learning is phenomenal. Students go on a growth trajectory. We've also done it, so we can talk from experience, the way in which one shifts one's own paradigms over time. So I hope that kind of settles it, but we want to brag that we believe that we are very good at online learning. Because now, just another quick observation. Every one of our online lecturers must successfully pass our internally developed online lecturer's course. They must pass it successfully. In other words, so that they can understand the Mill Park way. Online lecturing is not just this kind of format that we have it here now, that I yappa, 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 and everybody's at the other end just sits and receives. So there's online, online forums, and we're on this quest ourselves, and Jen can attest to that, our own research, because we are also experimenting with new things, with different things of how to really engage students. Deep engagement is what we're after. Immersive experiences, experiential experiences. That is when we involve all three modes of learning, not just the head, but the heart and the hands as well. And that maybe joins up on a few of the closing arguments that why you should consider us as your learning partner. And it has been mentioned, I'm just reiterating it, the fact of our Amba accredited, the only online MBA in Africa, so the only one on our continent that's currently the online one that's Amba accredited. And then our PMR Africa ranking for 2022, being second overall in South Africa, and we also got the first overall for executive education. Our programs are frequently reviewed, so we are convinced that it is contemporary and it's relevant. You heard the words Fourth Industrial Revolution, Management 4.0, Education 4.0, and all those wonderful things. So that is what we endeavor, to be aligned with the times. Our facilitators are experienced. They come from industry. So they bring that industry knowledge to the engagements. Then, as noted, the learning environment that we endeavor to create promotes these growth-producing experiences for our students that impacts all three modes of learning: cognitively, emotionally, and physically. Now, physically, I'm not meaning that we're running around or you lifting a shovel and things like that, but it is engaging the entire being. That is the endeavor. So, lastly, as far as my team and I are concerned, our students are the focus in this teaching and learning transaction. So, colleagues, thank you. We really appreciate the fact that you've spent time with us this afternoon. And if there's any more questions, perhaps uncertainties, you've got the contact information, email addresses, etc. Please connect with the super duper team. I refer to them as the A team, and I always love it when a plan comes together. So with that, appreciate all of you. Take care, keep your feet on the ground, reach for the stars, and remember, tomorrow is beautiful. Talk to you soon.